According to NASA, we are about to face a 50-year-long disaster, much more devastating than the 1930s Dust Bowl and the California drought. In fact, when NASA's prediction becomes reality, millions will die of hunger while the survivors will be fighting over scraps. Unfortunately, there is little time to act, as right now the first devastating signs of this global disaster are already showing up. Don't take what is about to be revealed to you lightly. It has nothing to do with the global warming hoax. In fact, this event has happened twice in recorded history, leaving behind death, misery, and suffering. Our entire planet will be affected, and entire nations will collapse. So, if you're watching this now, consider yourself lucky, as you might just take the right action and keep your family safe. My name is Frank Tanner. I've been an investigative journalist for over 23 years, and I've spent most of my life getting the real facts behind major natural disasters. I documented the massive California drought in 2015 and the aftermath of the tsunami that hit Japan in March 2011. I've worked to expose the criminal incompetence of FEMA during Hurricanes Sandy and Katrina. This is why I made this documentary. What I uncovered needs to be shared with every red-blooded American so they understand the scale of what's about to happen and maybe take the right steps to prepare. For now, let's look at the signs. You might have seen it on the news. The last 12 months have been the wettest in all of U.S. history, and this has created horrific conditions for our nation's farmers. Because of the endless rain and historic flooding that have stretched on for months, many farmers have not been able to plant crops at all, and a lot of crops that have actually been planted are destroyed or in bad shape. In March, record flooding in the central United States has caused historic crop delays. The Mississippi River received levels of rain and snow at 200% above normal this spring, causing corn and soybean farmers to wait longer to plant their crops than ever recorded in the Department of Agriculture data. Kate Glastetter has worked on her family farm all her life. Alongside her father, the 25-year-old farmer grows row crops, wheat, bean, and corn, and runs a cow and calf operation in Scott County, Missouri. It's like lakefront property, she says. The fields are washing away. In May, more than 120 damaging storms were reported from Montana all the way to Florida, a barrage that included 70-mile-an-hour winds from Texas to Illinois, golf ball-size hail in Nebraska, and up to a half-foot of rain in parts of southern Iowa. For Ohio farmer Charles Kettering, hundreds of acres that he had planted with corn and soybeans couldn't be seen at all because they were underwater. As a result of the flooding in June, the Ketterings will lose approximately $100,000. Could you imagine how you'd feel if you were suddenly hit with a financial loss of that magnitude? These are just a few of the stories that paint a very grim picture. We are facing the worst farming crisis in modern American history, and this comes at a time when U.S. farms are drowning in more debt than ever before. Minnesota farmers Liz and Bob Krosak recently received a check for about $12,000 from the federal government since the extreme weather destroyed their crops. This hardly puts a dent in their debts, as the latest data from the United Department of Agriculture shows that the average U.S. farm is $1.3 million in debt. I'll say it again, $1.3 million in debt for the average farm in the U.S. This is all before this year's disaster harvest. For whatever reason, some people want to try to minimize the nightmare that these farmers are living. But for many farmers, this will be the last year in operation. Our food supply system is in real danger. The numbers are staggering. This year, crops were not planted on 19.4 million acres of U.S. farmland. This is the largest number that the USDA has ever reported for a single year, and it's nearly 17.5 million acres greater than last year's final tally of fewer than 2 million acres. That's almost 9 times the amount of soil that was not planted. A total disaster. Of course, this is only part of the story. Only 57% of the corn that has been planted is considered to be in good or excellent shape. Only 54% of the soybeans are in good or excellent shape. and a meager 8% of the U.S. spring wheat crop has been harvested so far. That is sharply below the 30% five-year average. Corn, soy, and wheat are the main crops planted in the United States, and a shortage hurts us in ways we can't yet imagine. Sadly, the tighter that food supplies come, the higher prices will go. When corn prices rise, everything on our table will become extremely expensive. Most supermarket foods are produced with corn syrup. Everything from beverages and processed and packaged foods, canned foods, cereals, baked goods, desserts, flavored and sweetened dairy products, candy, and fast food will cost more and more. Corn is also extensively used to feed livestock, but the surge in prices has forced U.S. farmers to search elsewhere for low-cost substitutes. The $150 billion U.S. meat and dairy industry is looking in strange and unsavory places to cut the rising costs. And it's not just corn. Social media is buzzing with reports of shortages of canned vegetables all around the country. But so far, the mainstream media is being eerily quiet about all of this. Is there a reason why they aren't saying anything? Since the mainstream media is being completely silent about this, many people on social media don't have much information to go on. Speculation is rampant, and many are fearing the worst. We have a real crisis on our hands. A lot less crops are being grown, and a substantial percentage of the crops that are being grown are not in good shape. Usually, one bad year for agriculture is not going to be the end of the world. But what if things don't bounce back next year? Well, according to NASA, it won't. In spite of what the liberal media would have you believe, the sun is the #1 driver of our climate, not human activity. And for the past 2 years, scientists have been troubled by the lack of sunspots. Since that time, the behavior of the sun has continued to confirm one hypothesis. According to this NASA chart, we are experiencing the start of what is known as a grand solar minimum. During these periods, the sun's activity hits a minimum, which triggers lower temperatures and extreme weather events all over the world. We've had 2 grand solar minimums in recorded astronomical history. The Dalton minimum is better documented. Lasting for 50 years, it caused widespread famine and death across the entire Earth. By 1816, it got so bad that spring and then summer failed to arrive. One Virginia resident wrote, "In June, another snowfall came, and folks went sleighing. On July 4th, water froze in cisterns and snow fell again, with Independence Day celebrants moving inside churches where hearth fires warmed things a mite. Crops that had managed to sprout were frozen out in early June, replanted and frozen again in July. Very few crops were actually harvested, and of those that were, the yields were very poor. In turn, food and grain prices skyrocketed. For example, in 1815, oats sold for $12 a bushel, but by the next year, a bushel would set you back 92 cents. That's nearly an 8-fold increase. Keep this in mind. It was the same story across the world. In England, Ireland, France, China, and Germany, wheat, potato, and corn crops failed, leading to food riots and looting with thousands of people starving to death. You might think that with all our scientific and technological advancements, we are safe from such events. Well, right now, according to the Grand Solar Minimum Crop Loss Map, there are dozens of locations all over the globe that are reporting significant crop losses because of droughts and flooding. In Australia, drought is continuing to disrupt wheat crops. Africa is also suffering from droughts. Rice crops are failing in Asia. The soy and corn belts of our country have been devastated by flooding. The truth is that we have a tough time feeding everyone in the U.S. during ideal conditions. Right now, Feeding America is reporting that more than 41 million Americans are suffering from hunger daily, including more than 13 million children, with National Geographic reporting that 1 out of every 6 Americans aren't getting enough to eat. This is happening at a time when food is still plentiful and cheap. But according to NASA's prediction, food is about to get way, way more expensive. In spite of all our technological achievements, if the weather does not cooperate, farmers cannot grow our food, and we will not eat. And when the shortage gets bad, prices skyrocket. Are you ready for food price hyperinflation? Fact is, food shortages are already happening in parts of the world, and that is driving prices higher and higher. Take Venezuela as an example. With food inflation soaring at least 85%, murder rates are the second highest in the world. In China, 200 million hogs are projected to die because of swine fever. To put that in perspective, that's more pigs than the entire U.S. pork industry produces in an entire year. This caused the price of pork to rise by 40% this year alone. McDonald's, Burger King, Jimmy Dean, and Dunkin' all reportedly expect sausage and bacon prices to rise. Don't think the same can't happen right here. Food inflation can hit America too. Just consider this. An outbreak of the bird flu in 2015 caused the cost of a carton of large eggs in the Midwest to jump nearly 17% to $1.39 a dozen from $1.19 since mid-April. At that same time, eggs used as ingredients in processed products like cake mix and mayonnaise have jumped 63% to $1.03 a dozen from 63 cents. Keep in mind that right now the price of corn has already risen by 25%. Corn prices will rise, and they will trigger a rise in everything from processed food to meat. The only reason why you're not feeling the crippling effects of the solar minimum in food prices is that farmers have taken much of the financial losses. But, as you have seen, they can't last much longer. The agriculture industry is about to face the worst crisis ever, and there is nothing the government can do to stop it. What will happen when millions more Americans can't put food on the table? Rising food prices always cause mass social unrest. Hunger turns people into beasts. Ever tried skipping 3 meals or more? It messes with your head. Skip 4 or 5 meals and you get a full-blown revolution or a civil war. Food shortages triggered the French Revolution and brought down their 9-century-long monarchy. In Mexico in 2007, more than 75,000 of the poorest Mexicans took to the streets after the price of corn for tortillas went from 8 pesos to 10 pesos per kilo overnight. Syria experienced a scorching drought from 2006 to 2011. Farmers lost everything. Then in March 2011, the Syrian civil war began. More than 300,000 died because of it. The Tunisian and Egyptian revolutions in 2011 were started by a rise in food prices, according to Robert Zoellick, president of the World Bank. The pattern has repeated itself over and over again. And if the NASA prediction comes true, our country is about to witness social unrest that will dwarf anything we've seen for the past 200 years. At this moment, there are over 40 million Americans living on food stamps. What will happen when all of these people don't have enough money to buy food for their families? As you've already seen, the usual consequence is rioting on a massive scale. Some Americans riot over discount electronics on Black Friday. Can you imagine what will happen if putting food on the table becomes a life and death struggle? What would you be willing to do to provide your children with their next meal? Some might put their faith in FEMA and other government agencies. I have personally witnessed FEMA's handling of Katrina and Sandy. You don't want to be at the mercy of this government agency. If you need any proof, just watch the footage from New Orleans. The fact that no mass media outlet would run this report confirmed everything that was just presented to you as the truth that is being hidden away from the American people. As for me, researching this story made me come to a single conclusion. If I want my family to survive, I need my own food reserve. Standing in line for hours at a FEMA disaster relief center to receive a government handout is not the way I want to spend the next few years. But I know a true solution to the coming food crisis had to be self-sufficient, work year-round to provide a nutritious and healthy diet, be easy to build and maintain, and hide from intruders. I thought of the survival food recommended by survival experts, which means powdered, freeze-dried, smoked, or salted portions that usually taste like an old shoe, and these survival foods cost an arm and a leg. And then I thought of just leaving the country. But the coming disaster will be global. There will be no place to hide. It was then that I met Bill Jackson. He told me he had a story for me that needed to be told to every U.S. citizen concerned about the future security of their food supply. You see, Bill is a third-generation farmer living in San Joaquin County, California, one of the hardest-hit agricultural areas in California during the drought. He invited me to his home and told me that he had his own backyard miracle that could get him and his family through any disaster. From his tiny 300-square-foot backyard, every single month, he was getting around 80 pounds of juicy tomatoes, 15 pounds of bell peppers, 60 pounds of delicious zucchini, 60 pounds of cucumbers, not to mention onions, beets, radishes, spinach, and even some carrots. On top of that, he was getting about 700 pounds of fish every single year. I could not believe it at first. What was his secret? He explained that he had installed an aquaponic garden system in his backyard that required very little water and gave huge yields for the amount of space it used. This food generation system provided fish and vegetables based on a symbiotic relationship between plants and fish. The way it works is simple. Plants purify the water for the fish, while the fish fertilize the plants with their waste. The result? Tasty fish and juicy vegetables almost without lifting a finger. His system produces food 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days every year, year after year. He showed me how this system worked almost automatically because there's no watering required as the system recycles water on its own. No fertilizer needed. The fish do all the work. And no advanced agriculture knowledge required. Amazingly, this system provided maximum yields for minimum space usage. This system is so space efficient, it can provide enough food for a family of 4 from a tiny 300-square-foot backyard. His system was not that unusual for people that live outside the U.S. I was amazed to discover that the aquaponic system usually uses 10% of the water used in conventional gardening, because all the water is recycled between the fish tank and growing beds. You see, traditional agriculture loses 90% of irrigation water to soil infiltration. Most of the water winds up far below the roots of the plants, and it's therefore wasted. He then told me how he grew his garden. 3 years ago, he decided to try out aquaponics and bought 2 grow beds and fish tanks online for $1998.97. After seeing how much this system could produce, how little work was involved, and the massive savings on water, fertilizer, and time, he decided he wanted to expand to around 100 grow beds and fish tanks. But he didn't want to spend close to $100,000. In fact, he didn't even have the money for that. So he set to work on reverse engineering the build process to create his own system. He managed to build his first one for parts that cost him under $300, and the cost kept going down as he perfected the process. He said that he managed to get the cost down to under $150 for each grow bed and fish tank. This seemed like the perfect solution to the coming mass food shortage and hyperinflation, a cheap, drought-proof, year-round, high-powered, self-sufficient food generator that will provide the vitamin-rich, nutritious food desperately needed during the coming food shortage. And that's why he contacted me. He needed to spread the word so that anybody could secure their food supply by taking up aquaponics. I realized that this food system could help a lot of Americans during the coming food shortages. This is how Food for Freedom was born. A complete, take-you-by-the-hand blueprint to building your very own aquaponics garden so you can put your own food on the table in just a few weeks. No fancy jargon, no academic lingo, no technical mumbo-jumbo that will take an engineering degree to understand. Everything presented inside was gained through days of work and trial and error to slash the building cost and make it as newbie-friendly as possible. He promises that you'll be able to build your own system in as little as 5 hours, even if you've never held a hammer in your life. This is a foolproof, dirt-cheap shortcut to obtaining food independence. Building an aquaponics system can be super easy and fun if you follow the instructions. In this program, we'll show you the perfect alternative to a $4,000 fish tank. At $65, this is the most expensive part of the system, but sometimes it's even free to collect. This system will keep you and your family supplied with nutritious food while the unsuspecting and gullible fight over food scraps. The way I see it, this is the only way to secure your food independence. The Food for Freedom program contains all the knowledge you need to get your system up and running and operate it daily using at most 5 minutes of your time. You'll also discover how to grow the biggest, tastiest tomatoes, radishes, broccoli, and carrots. Just follow the simple instructions and you'll never have to spend a dime to get your favorite vegetables. And because there are no pesticides and chemicals involved, you'll feel their full natural flavors. The best thing about using aquaponics is that you can start using it the moment it's ready, and it'll slash your grocery bill by 80% in the first 6 weeks. That adds up to thousands of dollars in savings over a couple of months. Just another great part about being self-sufficient. Keep in mind that you don't need to have more than 300 square feet to feed a family of 6. This system will work for you even if you have to use it on a rooftop or place it in the garage or basement. As long as you have some source of light, the vegetables will grow and the fish will feed them. Now, Bill and I wanted to make sure you can get the most out of your Food for Freedom program and be completely satisfied with your investment. That's why we're also adding 4 exclusive bonuses to this bundle that are only available today. These 4 special bonuses are designed to complement Food for Freedom in every possible way. Bonus number 1 is called DIY Greenhouse Blueprint. If you plan on setting up the Food for Freedom outside your home, or if you require a massive amount of food, then building a greenhouse is the best solution. Inside, you'll find an easy step-by-step guide to setting up a greenhouse for your aquaponic garden. The greenhouse will shelter your garden even if you live in extremely cold areas or during winter. You won't believe how simple it is to set up this custom-made enclosure for your Food for Freedom system, even if you have never built a DIY project in your life. And don't worry about the cost. Members of our community have managed to build their greenhouses for under $57. Bonus number 2 is called Simple Survival Canning. Canning is the best way to create a long-term supply of food by taking advantage of what today is in excess. Many people who have tried the Food for Freedom system discovered that it generated more food than they actually needed, and sometimes it was just wasted because they lacked the knowledge to properly store it. This is what Simple Survival Canning is all about. It shows you the easy methods used to store surplus food so you'll never have to worry about not having enough to put on the table. Bonus number 3 is called Setting Up Your Survival Seed Bank. It's not all about the harvesting. You need to keep some seeds to grow your new plants, and inside, you'll discover exactly how to do it. You'll learn how to pick the best types of seeds for your aquaponic garden so that you'll grow the healthiest and most resilient plants. Timing is everything. That includes knowing when to use your survival seed bank, and we'll share the farming secrets of when and how to harvest for the best results. The last bonus that will complete your self-sustaining food stockpile is called Container Garden Secrets. If you chose to expand your garden beyond aquaponics, you need to be armed with the knowledge and secrets of container gardening. This guide is jam-packed with information, like what type of soil to use in your garden, how picking the material of your pot influences the plant itself, what plants need more sun, and what plants thrive in the shade. Everything is designed to make sure you'll have a delicious, varied, and nutritious garden every time. Bill and I are committed to get aquaponics to as many Americans as possible before it's too late, so we looked at the options available on the market. Right now, a retail aquaponics system with 2 grow beds and fish tanks would cost you anywhere between $1,500 and $4,000 plus shipping, and you would still have to build it on your own. I already covered survival food. A 2 years' worth of supply for a family of 4 costs as much as $15,000, and the space to store this amount would comfortably fit 8 aquaponic grow beds and their fish tanks that would provide you a constantly replenishing supply of fresh food daily. These 2 options for food are wildly expensive. Food is a basic human need and should be something everyone can afford. We needed to spread the word of what's coming and provide the solution as cheaply as possible. So, we set the price at the amount we needed to keep this special report online and to spread the message to all other patriots. This might sound crazy, but we have set the price for this self-sustained, self-sufficient food generator at just $27. And really, the price doesn't even matter. And there are 2 reasons for that. First, I'm so confident that you'll be completely satisfied with Food for Freedom that you'll have a full 60-day money-back guarantee trial period. Here's how it works. Just say maybe to the Food for Freedom program. Go through the program and the bonuses. Use the instructions to build your aquaponic system. And if you have any reason for being unhappy with your homemade aquaponic system, you can get a refund in as little as 48 hours, no questions asked. It's as simple as that, and you risk nothing. Secondly, this system is designed to reduce your food bill by up to 75% in the first few weeks. This means that this is one of the few investments you will ever get to make that pays for itself in less than 3 months. The investment you make in Food for Freedom, the building materials, and the plants and fish will be recovered as you harvest them and slash your food bill. Also, keep in mind that in a crisis situation, there's almost nothing that food can't pay for. Gold, guns, ammunition, people to work for food, anything you need can be acquired if you have food. When the unthinkable happens, roles in our society are reversed. Being able to read fancy spreadsheets might be useful today, but in a crashing society, it'll put you at the bottom of the food chain. Adaptability, strength, and the ability to feed yourself and others. That's what makes you a true leader. It'll be hard to find a better proposition than this. Simply click the link below, enter your credit card details, and you'll receive the full Food for Freedom package so you can get started right away. The thing is, if you really want to ensure your food security, you'll have to move fast. This website has been targeted by climate change fanatics who have tried to hack it. You now know the truth about the grand solar minimum and its devastating effects on the global food supply. And you have seen why having an aquaponic system is the best way to prepare, and how you can have fresh organic food 365 days a year without fertilizer, without hard work, and almost without any water. Now, it's time to make the choice. There are 3 paths ahead of you. The first choice, doing nothing, might seem like the easiest one right now. I, like many others, pray that NASA is wrong and that everything will be just fine in the end. But in the face of their prediction, how can a responsible father just stand by and do nothing? When Hurricane Katrina hit, those who were unprepared suffered immensely, and their families were left with no food, no water, and at the mercy of FEMA. You don't want to end up like that. The second option is to try and do it all by yourself. You would have to figure out how to make this system all by yourself and how and which plants and fish to grow. Bill learned everything about this system during a period of 4 years. You don't have that time. Or you could just buy an aquaponic system if you happen to have $2,000 lying around for a grow bed and a fish tank. And that's not nearly enough to ensure your food stability. Or you can just give Food for Freedom, the complete blueprint towards food self-sufficiency, a try. A system that is easy to build and use, requires almost no work and maintenance, slashes your grocery bills, and will provide a healthy, natural, vitamin-rich food for you and your family during any natural disaster. This is not a 1-year, 2-year, or 5-year solution to your food security. This is a lifelong lasting food generator that uses very little water and needs almost zero work. In fact, catching the fish can be a lot of fun for you and your grandchildren. But the best thing about this is that you can rest assured that you and your family will never depend on others for the most basic human need. That's why I'm confident that when you look back a couple of months from now, you would see this as a life-saving choice. Just imagine this. How many people are totally reliant on Walmart or other stores for what they put on the table? How shocked will they be to discover that food prices went up 50% overnight? How desperate will they become when every meal means a struggle, standing in line for FEMA rations for many hours? How many will join rioting and chaos on the streets because there is not enough to feed their family? How many will have to explain to their children with teary eyes from hunger that there's nothing to eat for dinner? Already in other parts of the world, this is happening, and all this is coming to America very, very soon. While all this is going on, you could feel safe knowing that you have your homegrown supply of fresh fish and tomatoes, broccoli, carrots, or whatever your heart desires. Knowing that you took the right decision today for yourself and for your entire family, that they see you as their real-life hero for having the foresight to protect their future by making a simple investment, that you are self-sufficient, independent, and the master of your own future. All this is just one click away. Haven't made your choice yet? Please give me a moment to address some of the questions you might have. Why aren't more people using aquaponics if this is such an efficient way of growing food? Well, there are many reasons for this. One, this system is not very widely known. I have no doubt that if more people actually knew of the benefits of this system, they would start using it. Of course, there is a huge time lag between the moment it becomes widespread knowledge and the moment it becomes widely used. Also, this knowledge is being suppressed. The government wants you dependent. Walmart wants you dependent. Big agricultural corporations like Monsanto want you dependent on their frankenfoods. The wide use of this system would be their worst nightmare. 2. The price of retail aquaponic systems with just 2 grow beds and fish tanks to go with them is $2,000 or more. How many people would make this investment when their food supply is just a short trip to Walmart? But as you have seen, all of this is about to change dramatically. 3. No one using this system will openly brag about it. I advise you to do the same. If a food crisis happens, it's everybody for himself, and those who are prepared don't want to become targets. Will this be hard to make? Building your first grow bed and attaching it to a fish tank takes about 2 hours using the Food for Freedom blueprint. It does not require advanced DIY skills or strength, and you don't have to be a doctor in agriculture to set it up. It's all explained in plain English in our Take You by the Hand guide. The parts are easy to get and are very cheap. It costs close to 10 times less than what you'd pay for a retail system. That's $100 for each grow bed and fish tank. Even your children can pitch in and help build it, and it'll be a very fun way to spend an afternoon. You mentioned savings on the monthly food bills. Can you tell me more? Aquaponics is a self-sufficient food generation system. You could live off the fish and vegetables it provides easily, as you will have all the protein and vitamins required in your daily diets. And the second you start harvesting, your bills will come down to almost zero. This means thousands of dollars a year right now. And when food hyperinflation strikes, having a source of food will be more valuable than owning a gold mine. Will I manage to use this if I have little space available? This is a system that provides food even if you have only a tiny space available. In fact, this is one of the requirements we had from the start. You can make use of any space, a balcony, a basement, a backyard, a rooftop. And that's because aquaponics can be done vertically too. There's not a more space-efficient way to grow food. Will this work if I live up north where the climate's colder? Sure. If you can't install it in your home, we've included a guide to creating a special greenhouse for your aquaponics system. Can I feed an entire family with this? The beautiful thing about Food for Freedom is that you can build it to your exact specifications. You can use it to feed a family of 3 or a family of 10 according to your needs. Are there any risks involved? No, and this is for 2 reasons. 1, you are covered by my ironclad 60-day money-back guarantee. If for any reason you're not satisfied with your investment, a full refund is just 4 clicks away, and you don't need to provide us with any reason to do so. I am that confident that this is the best self-sufficient solution for your food security. 2, by using this system, you are actually making money. Just think of your food bill going down by 75 to 100% after your first harvest. How much would you be able to save? Will it not pay for itself many times over? It's time to take your food security into your hands. It's time to make the right investment. It's time to look after your future. Click the buy button below, and I'll meet you on the other side.